There's no music. There's no music. And it didn't even start yet. No shot. No freaking shot that nobody saw that. What the frick? All right, well, it's not showing up on YouTube yet. That's weird. Did it really not show you guys the spin? Bro, that's crazy. All right, anyway. Let's forget the spin. Frick the spin. You guys can see your chats today, hopefully. I made them as big as I could. We're still working on that, but obviously I missed having your guys' chats on screen. It looks like you can see them pretty well, so I hope that looks good. Today I want to get into a little bit more about, first of all, I want to thank everybody for yesterday and sticking with me through a hard video. I know that was not easy, and, you know, I really appreciate you guys. The love and support means a lot to me. That video is something that I have thought about talking about for a long time. It needs to be out there, right? Because I hear from all kinds of different platforms when I listen to veterans or trauma survivors that they were suffering for a really long time until they got to their rock bottom, and then their rock bottom was so bad and they didn't know that anybody else felt that way, and that was really detrimental to them. So that just really inspired me to have that video and put that video out for you guys and for anybody who might be struggling, because, you know, it's really important to talk about that stuff, and it's just not very common, and it's unfortunate because I know how hard it is to bring up those subjects. So I just want to say thank you for being there for that video, and I really hope this video as well touches your heart and helps a lot of people as well. First, I want to kind of define survivor's guilt, and then I want to jump into an article. I would put my green screen up so I could be in, if you guys have seen the gaming channel, I can be inside, which on some of our reaction stuff I'll do, but for now I'm just going to be in my little box. And so, but to define survivor's guilt is the experience of psychological distress due to surviving or escaping a situation relatively unharmed or unaffected as compared to others. When one emerges relatively unharmed from an accident, conflict, or a pandemic, for example, while others have passed away or experienced significant loss, a person may experience survivor's guilt despite bearing no responsibility for the outcomes that occurred. So I want to kind of go to this point of this goes way deeper than probably a lot of people think. A lot of people deal with this problem with, why am I still here? And that happens, you know, and a great example, if you've ever seen the Creed movies, one of the complexes that they play with that character with Rocky is that he basically says, why am I here? Why am I still here? Everybody I love is gone. Everything I love is gone, and I'm here. That's even survivor's guilt, even though it has nothing to do with being your fault. So I really want to jump into this and try to get some of this guilt and shame off of people. I think guilt and shame shape people, unfortunately, and in the wrong ways, by the way. They make you have a different identity. So I'm going to go ahead and go in my little box, because you know how Osbees. We're going to go down into kind of this right here and talk a little bit more about it. Why you feel survivor's guilt. Disasters are arbitrary. A tornado can destroy one family's home and leave the other across the street intact, right? A mass, I'm not going to say the word, but S can leave one person critically injured and from someone who was right next to them unscathed. A layoff could wipe out a department but still leave a few workers standing. Such scenarios are difficult for people to make sense of, and their empathy and underlying personality, states, or traits may make them feel like they did not deserve to be spared. So again, even defining into people losing their positions at their job, there's this all kinds of, why am I different? Why do I deserve this? Or I deserve the same thing this person deserved. And the problem is, it's really an unfair, I would say an unfair, let me come out of my box here. It's really an unfair way to look at your life, because you don't have control over it either way. And so this isn't something that you should be sitting there saying, I feel so guilty. And yesterday, I'm not going to lie to you, yesterday's video made me feel very bare and very raw and very exposed, and it was uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. Just having that part of my life in that way, emotional, and just bringing that out for people was hard. And I just almost didn't want to do that because I know that it also opens you up to judgment and people who can still leave their opinion in a negative way as well. But the point, the reason I bring that up is because once I actually identified in that video talking to you guys, and I watched it over with you while I was watching it and commenting with you, I realized that part where I really broke down, and it made me cry watching it again, was, why am I still here? My family's not. And the reality is, it doesn't make me better or worse that I am here. It just is. And whatever reason that is, it doesn't change to trace that reason down or try to figure out the answers. The truth is that I'm here. And being upset that I survived and they didn't is not what I think my family would want. And I always try to put myself in the other side. If something happens to me, my number one thought is going to be, I really pray that my family, like my daughters, my wife, and anybody who loved me, would move not on in a sense of like, I hate that word sometimes because like, oh, just move on. That's not what I mean, but move forward. And no, it's not your fault that something happened to me, and it goes back to that same place. And I really want to get to that point with you because I'm talking about this topic based off of how I have felt before. And I really struggled. Like, some of the first things I hit on in therapy were, about survivor's guilt, and just like, man, I feel like my life is not even like mine. My life doesn't feel fair. It doesn't feel fair. And I know it's never going to be fair, but I really couldn't get past that part. Like, the only reason I'm alive is this, and this. And like I told you guys yesterday, you had people telling me why I'm alive, right? Oh, you didn't have insurance money, or whatever the case be. They were just, there's a lot of theories and people talking about whatever. But reality is, I'm still here, and that's just what it is. And the guilt of feeling like I should have, and I did this for a long time. I'll tell you how my survivor's guilt was. So then we'll go back into the article. My survivor's guilt was, I should have done more. I should have saved their lives. I should have done everything. I should have done this. I should have done that. And I just went down the list, and I made a list against myself. And one of the most profound things I've ever heard from anybody as a pastor, and this pastor basically said, you cannot be the student and the teacher. You can't take the test and grade it. Meaning, in life, you can't be both. And really what that means is that I'm judging myself and stacking up a list against myself to judge myself off of circumstances that I had no control over. Right. So when I hate to sound super, I never ever want to sound insensitive to my own situation, but just so you guys get it in a very, very simple way. When I looked at the timeline was so quick to what had happened that by the time I even realized there was an issue, my family was already gone. Right. Tylee and JJ were already gone by the time I even started to really wonder what was going on. And that is just the horrible, deep, uncomfortable reality of my life. And you realize, well, you know what? It did happen this way. And it sucks. And it's just like, actually accepting reality is always going to be harder than coming up with a theory of what I could have done better. And that's just the truth. So, but the survivor's guilt really, really hurt me for a long time. And when people would make those comments, I would get extra defensive. And even in my heart, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I can't, like, people be like, you didn't do enough. You should have done this. You should have done that. And I'm like, who are you to ever speak on the situation? You have no idea what I was doing. And I get really defensive and upset because I allowed, against my own self, by the way, to build up survivor's guilt. And I started to make a list of all the things I should have done and make, stack against my own self. So I was a house split against myself. How can you stand? Jesus says you can't. So that's kind of where that all started. And I lived with this for years. And obviously, like I told you guys yesterday in the video, I felt like, well, I'm not like this good, godly person that should have survived this and this or whatever the case was. So I continually went down that path. So I finally realized the truth is I can't change the circumstances, and I'm going to do everything I can now that I have a purpose. I know what my purpose is. I believe I know what my purpose is, and I'm going to continue to do that. And that's why we're here today in this video. This is part of the purpose that I was given, is to try to help others. And so that's where your energy has to now refocus at some point. And by the way, this was years of processing. So I never want this to sound like this came easy. I say this all the time to my wife about our kids. We talk about how being a generational cycle breaker is like crawling on glass so your kids can walk in meadows. That is my metaphor that I came up with, because it feels like that. Like sometimes you have to go through hell so your kids don't experience the same things, and you can also pass on the knowledge. Well, it comes in the same way here, where people who are feeling guilty about how they should have shared in the fate of something that had happened and they didn't is really just a mind game. And it's really just a way of keeping yourself locked in a bad situation. So I just want to put that out there before we keep going. So back to our article, how to deal with it. Guilt is a normal reaction to surviving a disaster that may have ruined many others' lives. Understanding that is a crucial first step to moving past those feelings. There you go. By the way, I'm a big fan of Psychology Today. Almost every time we pull an article, it's on Psychology Today. I don't know why it's over. Why is it over? Oh, there you go. There's more tabs. There we go. So I'll give you my take on this and we'll go through it. But taking time to grieve the loss of a life properly is an important first step. And that's exactly where I think some people miss, is if you lose someone and it feels like I should have also shared in that fate, or why didn't I, right? Like if it's an accident or anything of that nature, it's really just important to zoom out and say, this is the situation for what it was first, and then be able to actually take that step of healing first before you start making the next jump. It's kind of like, you guys always know I bring up What About Bob? It's baby steps, right? Baby steps. Like take a baby step first before you start, you crawl before you walk, and you walk before you run. It's the same thing in therapy. You have to take your time. And if you haven't even grieved or accepted the thing you've lost, I don't really think that you can take that next step, because you're skipping an important part. Another good example is kind of like ingredients to making food. If you skip a step in those ingredients, you're going to miss a foundational piece of that, right? That's how I look at it. So taking a time to grieve the loss, and then along with that, maintaining one's physical health, very important, especially a positive diet and sleep habits. Guys, let me stop right here again. I cannot tell you how integral your sleep is. And I'll be honest with you, I was tortured. Like my dreams were they were so tortured. I would have nightmares about fighting my mom, literally. Like I'd be wrestling her off and trying to jump and get Tylee and JJ. And I would have these dreams of stopping and fighting Alex and wrestling over a gun. And I used to write my dreams down. They were so vivid that when I would wake up, I would be disoriented. I wouldn't even know if it had happened or not. And that's what I'm talking about. So even in that time, I wasn't getting any sleep. I wasn't getting any rest. Like I never had my brain shut off. Like sleeping for me was just a worse continuation of the worst events of my life, because all of my grieving came out of my sleep. So I'd wake up crying. I'd wake up having experiences, and my dreams were so realistic that I couldn't even differentiate sometimes reality for a good 10 minutes. You just wake up and you're like, what is going on? And so for me, I never got that sleep. I never had the rest I need during that time. And on top of that, I had a really bad diet, and you guys know I gained a ton of weight, and I struggled really bad in that time from like 2020 to 2023. And that was just a 3-year period of just hell on earth for me, where I was destroyed over everything. So that's kind of why it's so important. So being able to take care of your physical health, which I always tell you guys, working out, taking some time, even simple things like going on walks, just being outside in general, doesn't matter. Like if you can go outside and breathe some fresh air. Very, very important. And then taking positive action, particularly to help others touched by the traumatic event. They survived. So, I mean, for me personally, I didn't have a lot of people that I super resonated with, but I did have people that did go through a lot of similar things, right? So having those conversations with people because they understand, very important. And then writing about one's experience in a journal, very powerful, also has been found to help some survivors move forward. When strong feelings of guilt linger for weeks without easing, an individual should consider talking to a mental health professional. And again, I'll always tell you guys one thing. Most importantly, you have to be okay with the idea. And I saw someone's comment. I hope you're here. And I'm sorry that I don't remember your name. I should have written your name down just so I could give you the shout out. But you said the side. Why did you see the side? I just saw it on my phone. The side profile of me stuck on Restream is hilarious. Sorry, it just threw my brain off. One of you guys said yesterday is you said I was such a shock to see the side profile frozen. One of you guys said yesterday, if you break your arm, are you going to go to the doctor? Like if you break your arm, you go to the emergency room, right? If you sorry, that was good. Restream for me, like, you don't know if you guys see this, but on my thing, like, it'll just show me frozen in some position all the time. So one of you said, if you break, your arm, you go straight to the emergency room. Whatever the case is, you look like a squirrel. I know, it's the worst position to ever get caught in. It's the worst freeze frame ever. Okay. This is why our streams are great, because you just never know what's going to happen. It's either going to be laughing or crying, one of the two. But it's the same thing with your heart, man. If you, no, Kelsey, I'm not going back to it. Are you out of your mind? You think I'm going to go back to that picture? I'll give you one. All right. Quick transition. There you go. That's all I'm giving you. Never going back to that pic again. It's frozen. I gave you one peek. One peek. So the same thing applies with your heart. You need to be willing. Okay. I know you can pause it. Why did I do that? Because you can pause it and freeze frame it. Like what was the, why did I do that? Horrible. See, Stacy, gosh dang it. Do not make that your new profile pic. Don't do it. Do not make that your profile pic, bro. That is that's the worst shot ever. Like, that is not Colby. I don't even know who that is. That's Bulby. I don't know who that is. Damn, I'm getting off track. All right. Listen, we'll come back to the picture. All right. Listen, what we're going to do is, if we're having issues that we can't deal with, what we need to do, it's very important, is we need to be willing to go get some kind of help. And you know what I would encourage you to do? If you're going to go find a therapist, take your time to build a relationship with them and make sure they fit your needs. I had that issue. I really didn't know what to do with therapy because I didn't want to I didn't want to unload what I had on a therapist. I didn't think anybody could handle it. Even trauma therapy, I really didn't believe anybody could handle like all of my life event. And when I met my therapist, it was the perfect fit because she understood how to help me identify my trauma. Stop. I'm not playing with the chat right now. I can't even look at the chat. You guys are... Stop it. Stop it. So what she did, like I told you guys yesterday, is I said, the number one thing you need to do, okay? Number one thing you need to do. Kelsey, no way. Kelsey. You're kidding me. It's the worst pick ever, bro. Yes, thank you, Jess. EMDR. Okay. There's a lot of things I didn't know about. Like I said, if you ask Kelsey, and this is gonna go back to serious for me for a second. I used to struggle so badly with my sleep, right? And you can ask Kelsey, I used to have night terrors of screaming at the top of my lungs. I'm sorry, I saw Miss Woozy's comment. I can't. I used to scream at the top of my lungs. It's not funny right now. This is trauma, okay? This is trauma, not funny. And I used to wake up screaming, right, from the dream. And then that whole time, like, I used to have really vivid dreams. So one thing I had to stop doing, I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with this, but yeah, there's Kelsey. It was awful. It was horrible. And I would take sleep medication because I couldn't fall asleep. And because I couldn't fall asleep, I take the sleep medication, but the sleep medication was like a cocktail of bad dreams for me personally. So then I started having worse nightmares. And because I was having worse nightmares, going to sleep at night was a chore. It was not fun, and I didn't want to do it. So I didn't know how to cope with anything because sleep was no longer an escape. I'll tell you when I felt like I was escaping, okay? And this was all part of this guilt and this shame. And this another video we're going to do is specifically about shame. Shame, we've touched on the channel before, but shame is one of the most powerful negative tools. Shame is horrible. But to talk about guilt has is a very close, let's say, brother or sister to shame. And like I said, you can't necessarily stop what's happened, right? Like, there's people I've heard who have been involved in like hurricanes in Florida or something of that degree and will feel bad because their area didn't get destroyed like another area. And there's a true, like, why do I deserve to be okay? There's just really, it's a natural human thing. So this isn't uncommon. But how deep you let it go and how long you hold on to something that shouldn't be a part of you. See, let me break the basis down, okay? I need to find something to use here. Okay, let's use a remote. Let's use a remote. This is your identity, okay? This is your identity, and it stays like this, and everything around your life goes around your identity. And the problem is you forget what this is, this baseline, because of all the things that happen in your life. And so the thing that shame and guilt do is they get onto your identity and they make you start to say things like, I am this. So now it's no longer I feel this, it is I am this. Guilt has an ability to do something like that, right? It has the ability to say, I am a bad person. I am this. Hey, Christmas lights. I am guilt. I feel guilt and I am bad. I should have done this. That's on me. They're gone because of me. That's how I felt. My guilt was so bad. It was to the point of I'm the reason why my family's gone, because I was a grown man and I didn't save my sister. I didn't save my brother. I didn't save my dad. So now all three of those deaths were on me. And then I thought, well, I was a bad kid, so I did this to my mom. You know what I'm saying? Like, I took that on, all of it. And I had to deal with that feeling. Like, I did this to my family. If I would have never, talked to my mom about my abuse that I suffered, she would never have gotten crazy. That's what I believed in my heart. Do you know what kind of weight that is? That makes me think I ruined her life. If I ruined Lori's life, well, I'm the reason why she flipped, right? So if she flipped because I ruined her life, now I'm the reason why everyone's gone. Do you see how that works? That's a horrible cyclical thing that doesn't go away. And guess what? I got nowhere with my coping mechanisms. I promise you that. Video games didn't make me feel better. They're just an escape, right? There was no sleeping I couldn't sleep all day anymore. I couldn't eat it away. I couldn't do it. There was no escape. There was temporary moments, but there wasn't any, you know what I mean? There wasn't any escape for me. Ray, is that a beer hat? It is. I don't even drink like that. I don't even drink, but It's a red hat. Yeah, Brenda, it was tough. That's how I felt though. And I couldn't get out of that mentality. So there was so much going on in my life behind the scenes that nobody knew about, that nobody could ever have known that I was struggling with. And yet I believed these lies. I believed the lies. See, that's the thing. What happens when I truly believe what happens with this guilt is that you take on the responsibility of something or someone else. Let's use a tornado, for example, just to get outside of my situation. Then we'll come back to my situation just so I can give you some personal stuff. But if a tornado does happen and it ruins a bunch of stuff, I'm telling you right now, that's no one's fault. That's a natural disaster, right? But that happens a lot, right? My hat might as well say root beer because I don't drink like that, but whatever. Rory says shame is the one reason. Exactly. Shame is a big deal. That's why we're bringing this up. It's not just survivor's guilt. There's so many pillars. And what I'd like you to start imagining is that your mental health has these pillars, or let me think of something to say. The better version of this. In my opinion, okay, don't laugh at me right now, okay? And I'm going to use my screen again. I'm never showing you the squirrel. I'm never showing you Squirrel Boy again, because you guys will never let that down. I'm going to show you the Avatar hair. You guys ever seen the movie Avatar? It's got a bunch of tentacles and stuff in it. Give me 1 second. It's got tentacles, okay? I'm going to show you. Look. See this? See these tentacles? This might be a bad analogy, but I'm really trying here. And I'm not going to press this again and give you guys another shot. All right. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Frick this. Listen. Imagine, bro, imagine the thing you believe about yourself having the ability to connect into your identity. The shame has those little tentacles. You ever seen Avatar? The way that they like ride their horses is they connect their hair. It's weird, but whatever. Okay. Just give me a second. Trust me. Slow down. I know it sounds weird. Give me a second to get to you. Okay. Your identity's right here, and you're connecting in negative emotions and thoughts. So shame is now in your identity. Okay? It's in your identity. Now you take guilt and you put it as part of your identity. And what I mean is identity meaning if you say, I am this, that's identity. It's no longer feeling. It's no longer an emotion. It's no longer a response to an external situation. It is now self-generation. So now you hate yourself, right? Guilt has the same kind of thing where you never stop feeling guilty for the past. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that backpack that you carry from your past is stopping you from going forward in your future. It's stopping you. Everything about what you've experienced, and I'll never belittle what you've been through. I'm not going to sit here and belittle every single trial that you've ever had or try to make you feel like what you're experiencing isn't real. But everything about those past pieces are stopping you from realizing who and what you are and what you truly want, because they have their own voice. And those voices are causing and stirring a whole nother level of problems in your life, right? And that's the best part. And I'm going to preach for just a second here, because this is my true thought, and I really hope this helps you, okay? I struggled with religion really bad. I mean, I really struggled. I couldn't figure out what I believed anymore. Imagine you think that you have this parent who's a good person, right? Or whatever the case is, and they use the name of the person you think is your savior and say that the savior, that person, that same savior that saved your life, that you believed in your whole life, told them that what they did was good, and you know it's not good. Imagine that your whole life you led down this path, you believe in this, you believe in Jesus, and all of a sudden now Jesus is the reason why. She only did this because of Jesus. I promise you it will shake you to your core. It shook me to my core because I knew it wasn't Jesus, but then the confusion came, right? And it's like, that doesn't make any sense, bro. Like, how does that make any sense to me? How does that make any sense? And how in the world can you say you love Jesus and I say I love Jesus, and they're not the same person? And so I bring all that up because like all of these things that I had of guilt, it wasn't just survivor's guilt. I grew up feeling guilty all the time going to church, and it was a complicated relationship. I bring up religion in this way. Jesus wasn't someone who puts you in a jujitsu lock of guilt to make you repent. Do you know what repent means? Repenting means changing the direction. It means change your direction. So it doesn't have to apply to religion. It is, I'm doing something that's not serving me, so I'm going to change my direction by choice. You know what I mean? That's it. It's literally like, I'm going to go like this, okay? I'm going this way. Shut up, guys. Come on now. I'm going to change my direction. I'm going to change what I'm doing. And this has to apply to what you're experiencing in your identity crisis that's causing you to stay stuck because your past is becoming your present and becoming and projecting to your future. Guilt will hold you back in life from your present and project into your future because guilt's going to tell you you're not good enough. Guilt's going to tell you you should have done something more. Guilt's going to tell you you shouldn't be happy. Why do you deserve to have a happy life? Right? That's how I felt. Why do I deserve to be happy and have this family and have these blessings? I don't deserve this. And so that's the problem. It's a cyclical thing that you never move past. And a lot of people get stuck, and guess what? The devil is waiting for these moments. The pitfalls of life are going to come in, and the holes of the path you're walking, there's traps everywhere for you to fall in those holes, and that's when you get to those places like what we talked about yesterday. Those places you get stuck in life where you don't know how to get out are because you're carrying such a weight that you don't know how to lift anymore. You get exhausted. You ever hear that from people who are at their wits' end? One of the first things people who say that is, I'm tired. I'm too tired to keep going. I'm exhausted. And there's a reason why they feel exhausted. McSpunky, my guy, roughy life. But that's the problem, right? This is the cyclical problem that people don't talk about enough. You're carrying something, trauma, guilt, shame, whatever you say to yourself, how do you talk to yourself is important. And I've told Kelsey, like, bro, I talk to myself crazy sometimes. I've had to check myself. And some of the best advice I've ever got is, how would you talk to your best friend if they were sitting here right now with the same exact struggles? How would you talk to your best friend? How would you speak to them? How would you talk to them? How would you manage that? Because I guarantee you, if your best friend sat down, right, your best friend you've had your whole life that you know, and you sit them down and they're like, man, I'm really struggling. You're like, you stupid mother F. You idiot. You should have been better. You should have done this. You should have done this. You should have done this. You're better than that. You're an idiot. You should have done more. But how many people talk to themselves like that? I'm guilty of that. I'll be honest with you. I've talked to myself crazy because I've always believed I deserved it. So my identity was shaken, and that's the point. You as a person can be your worst enemy because you know yourself so well. And so you put yourself in a jujitsu lock, man. You put yourself in a hard place and hurt yourself and beat yourself up for the past. And that can go on for the rest of your life. You know, and you watch these movies that depict this because it's such a real thing. But like, we watch these movies or shows where you watch someone who can never get past that event. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but you know what? A perfect example, I'm going to use it in case you've ever seen Creed. It's a great point. What happens in Creed, and spoiler alert, if you don't want to know, this is your spoiler alert. In Creed, in the first movie, Rocky, as we all know, Rocky had his whole series, and Creed is, the sequel or whatever you want to call it. But Rocky struggles after his whole life because he loses his wife, he loses his best friend, he's all alone, and he's just beating himself up, and he can't wait to die. That's all Rocky wants to do. He wants to die. He wants to get out of here. He meets Creed, who's Adonis, and Adonis brings this new life into him, and he gives him a whole nother perspective and what makes him want to live again. And the whole thing is Rocky's always sulking, and he even gets cancer, and he starts like accepts his death, and Adonis is like, I don't accept that. You need to fight this. You need to go against this. And that's the problem is it's like you have to reassess how you speak to yourself. And Rocky finally lets it all go. He lets it go, and he has that breakthrough, and he starts to fight, and he finds a reason, and he gets up and he fights for himself, right? That's the point. You have to fight yourself on some of this stuff. You have to be your biggest fan, not your worst enemy. Being your own enemy gets you nowhere, right? Like for me, I've even learned, and I told Kelsey this other day straight up, sometimes when I'm at the gym, I talk myself crazy, and I realize that to kind of keep myself like motivated. I've pivoted on what I say to myself. I can't repeat it here, but I realized instead of doing that, it's I know you have more. So the just was, I was kind of going at myself like, don't be a things. And then it's stop talking to myself like that and simply just reinforcing yourself. I know you can do more. And that is true motivation. That's real, like wind behind your sails kind of part of your life. But what guilt does and what all that stuff does is hurt you and stop your progression of the things you're called to do more, right? Kelsey said her theory works better. I'm going to give you the Kelsey theory, okay? Kelsey and I started lifting together a couple months ago, and when Kelsey's in a set, she told me that she pretends that she's at gunpoint to finish her set, and if she doesn't finish the set, the one rep that she's struggling with, the gunman's gonna take her out. So you can either go my way, or you can talk to yourself and say, hey, I know you've got more, or you can pretend that someone's standing there like this with an AR and making sure you do your last set. So that's up to you. Mine's healthier. I'm just gonna put that out there, but you have to start being a advocate for yourself. Get yourself out of this negative loop. Guilt gets you nowhere, right? Even I feel like Jesus doesn't guilt you into anything. And if you feel guilty in religion, then you're starting to look at religion in the wrong way. And I want to talk separately about that in a different video because it's a big deal. But man, gosh dang, the chat and the Colbys, I can't even tell you guys apart now. There's just a bunch of side profile Colbys looking like a gosh dang squirrel. Frick this. I love that, Kelly. She said a friend recently told me that worrying has never prepared them for what's going to come, also doesn't change the outcome. I'll tell you one thing I loved, and I've told you this before. I love this analogy. And there was, I was watching the Sean Ryan show, and they were talking about the Navy SEALs were on their way for the Bin Laden raid. And on the way, they were told that if you start to, they were worried because they were going to get possibly shot down by missiles, right? And when they thought they were going to be shot down by missiles, one of the guys said, those missiles shooting at you won't change with worry. Nothing you think in your brain is going to change if that missile comes or not. So might as well put all of your time back into something else, right? Because that thank you. I'm glad you saw it, Tess. It will tell you, like, worrying about something that's going to happen is the definition of anxiety. It's the projection of what could happen in the future because of this event that you see now. But you need to realize, yes, I might not be seeing clearly. So if I have a very specific way that I'm looking at things, the future is being projected based off of my thoughts now. And those thoughts now are now projecting into my future, and they're going to hurt me, and they're going to cause more stress and more anxiety. And you're in the cyclical thing that you never get out of. And I lived in that loop from 18 till, 27, 28. I mean, hard. Like, I'd always had issues, but like 18 to 27, maybe 28. I want to say 27 though. I couldn't escape that anxiety. Couldn't escape it. And it really just, I never could think anything good was going to happen. Everything was from my broken lens, right? And it's almost like I did a video a long time ago where I showed a video on top of in an airplane, right? And when you're on an airplane, everything looks very different. But when you're down on the ground looking at a house, you have no idea what the world around you looks like compared to when you're on an airplane. So it's called perspective, right? Your perspective where you are is very different to where it could be. And I think an unhealed perspective is going to give you a unhealed projection, and a healed perspective is going to give you a healed projection, if that makes sense. So you have to realize I got to do some work on what I'm feeling and thinking, because my emotions can take over. And if my emotions take over, then I start to do things out of character, and I start to do things the wrong way. I'll start going down the wrong path. You know what I mean? So that's just really the most important thing we have to look at. And our lives matter. You guys matter. Are you not worth it? Let me ask you a question, really. I know we're having fun. I love our chat. You guys can keep having fun. But ask yourself a serious question. Are you worth being your best? Do you not want to be your best? And I don't say that to criticize you as if you're not, but do you want to see what the potential of your life truly is? Or are you okay with where you are? Because the hard work between you feeling completely different and outside of these things, it does exist. There is freedom. I promise you that. There's freedom from anxieties. There's freedom from depression. So how long are you going to sit there and not allow yourself to take the steps forward? Because you are worth it. I love that, Emmy. And you have to keep working. I've had to make this differentiation because it's so hard to explain to people who are in pain that you have to work hard. That's a hard thing. I know that because you're exhausted. You're exhausted. You're exhausted. You don't want to put in work, and I get that. But you do deserve it. And if I could drag you to your goal, I'd do it because I am in a different place. So I would drag you, if I could, to your healing. But guess what? I can't do that for you. No matter how much I want it for you, I can't give it to you. So guess what? It leaves one person that can do it. And it's not me, and it's not your spouse, and it's not anybody else. It's you. And, you know, it's kind of like anything else in life. You get what you put into it. You get out of it what you put into it. And guess what? I'll be 1,000% honest when it comes to therapy. This will be another video we'll do about therapy specifically, but I had horrible therapists before. I've had some really insensitive therapists. I've had therapists who really did not know what they were doing. And it wasn't like a one and done. It's not like I met a therapist. It's not like I had freaking the genie from Aladdin, what's his name, sitting there waiting for me to have me go through breakthroughs, right? From Good Will Hunting. I didn't have that person right off the bat. It took me a long time to find the right person. And that's why it works, because you have to find someone you can talk to and trust, and then also helps you in certain ways. And there's different methods, right? There's different therapy methods, but there's no one answer. That's why I can't give you the answer to your healing other than it will take some personal work to work through your past. And that's what I hear the most from everybody is the past has your throat still. It's got your number and it won't let you go. And I'm not trying to tell you that your past doesn't matter. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's, a get over it. I don't believe that. But listen, it's causing you more pain to your future. It's projecting itself into the future. You know what I mean? It is stopping you from being happy. And you know what? I'm going to say something that I hope doesn't sound controversial, but it's just the truth. Okay. Our lives. Okay. And this is really going to, I hope get into all of our souls here. Our lives are not about being the happiest you can be. That should not be our goal. Cause you know what? Happiness is objective. Some people are happy if they have, a house on the moon. Some people are going to be happy if they just had a family member or this. Like, there's the goal of life is not to be happy. I just don't believe that. I don't believe and subscribe to the idea that I should be chasing happiness, because you know what makes me happy sometimes? Ice cream. You know what makes me happy a lot of times? My family, spending time with my wife, hanging out with you guys, laughing. But what if I only define my whole life as that's my goal, to feel, oxytocin, or if I have to feel boosts? Without the hard times in your life, you won't appreciate the good. Now, when you're going through that hard time, your goal is to really work on what do I do now? What do I do while I'm in this hole? First of all, getting out of the hole. Yes, you'll start to feel less, I don't want to use the word, less sad, right? That's obviously part of it, is when you're having a lot of emotions, you've lost something, you're going through a lot. But the reality is that your goal is not to just be quote unquote happy. My best thing I can give you is that helping others with what I've learned has made me the most fulfilled I've ever felt. Or applying something I've learned into my own life and knowing I'm going to help my kids or my wife, right? Those things make me feel more fulfilled. But at the end of the day, I think we mix up life on earth and life in heaven. And sometimes we want heaven on earth, versus earth is not heaven. It's not fun. And that's the problem. Like, we're selling it in movies. We're selling the idea that money and status and all these things are happiness. But I promise you, those people are not happy or fulfilled, because there's no satisfaction in your soul from those things. Yeah, it can help you. Like freaking Ariana Grande says, if you have problems, so somebody said, if you don't have enough, or money doesn't solve your problems, but you didn't have enough to solve them, right? Like, that's her claim. But at the end of the day, happiness is subjective. So it really doesn't apply to everything. Like, our goal in life is not happiness, right? We're going to have ups, we're going to have downs. So setting a true expectation for your life is going to keep you away from unrealistic expectations of what life should look like or be. The one thing we can all agree on is that life isn't fair, but what do you do now? It's not fair. So instead of this idea of tough love, it's how do I respond to it? And that's where this guilt comes back in, right? We circle back to what we started this whole conversation in. Guilt will hurt you and cut the tree at the branch and stop you from growing. Guilt is something that is not producing good in you, right? Feeling guilty that you did something versus learning your lesson and say, I know I could do better, are completely different worlds. Not even close to the same thing, right? So let's just use an example. I'd feel guilty if I went downstairs and ate all of Kelsey's ice cream. Okay. So instead of sitting here worried that she's gonna be mad at me, I'll say, okay, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't good for my body. That wasn't a good idea. And I'm going to go replace her ice cream and I'm going to apologize. That's a solution to that problem. I'm not saying everything's that easy. I'm just saying those are practical steps. That's an example with practical steps that are going to change the trajectory of how you handle the situation. And now everything you deal with now is, how do I respond? And that applies to every single one of us. There's not one of us that doesn't go through trauma. And I tell you guys this all the time. I know I went through a lot, but your trauma is just as real and is just as valid as mine. And it doesn't mean that there's these passes of who's had worse trauma. We're not playing that game. Okay, I'm not even talking to side profile Squirrel Girl, okay? But that's all I want you to know is there are so many. She always throws me off, bro. There's so many people who have never, ever, ever. Oh, she doesn't want me to call her out. I never do it. She does it to me and I never do it back. You know why? Because it's turn the other cheek. But you have to keep working at practicality. I think that's the main thing you have to do. And to stop yourself from being your biggest enemy is going to be the difference between your success and your failure. And I don't want to use the word failure, but it's the truth. It will stop you from ever realizing how great you are. Like, you will never look at yourself. And there's another bar from NF that says, if you get up every day and tell yourself you'll never be great, you'll never be great. And it's not even just that. It's how do you speak to yourself? How do you talk to yourself? And is it productive or not? And would you talk to others like that, or is it just you? Because you're your biggest critic. And it's kind of that old thing with the angel and the devil on your shoulder and having the different voices, right? And guess what? We can't change what life throws at us. We can't always have control of that. And some things are just so externally out of our hands that having guilt about not being able to change our circumstance is not fruitful. And it will no longer help you, and it won't get you anywhere. You won't feel any more accomplished by harboring on the fact that it happened and that you couldn't change it. And that's a hard place to get. So I'm not here to criticize or tell you to get on a certain level. I'm telling you, I know that. I know how hard that is to get. It's a struggle, but you have to remind yourself. And it's like working out, man. You have to put in the time. You have to do it consistently. You have to apply it every single day. There's no shortcuts on this stuff. There's no shortcut on you feeling the way you deserve to feel. But because of your life, you have to work hard. And there will be those days where you see how far you've come. Take a minute and look at your life and say, look how far I've come. But today's the day to get out of feeling guilty and ashamed and unworthy and all these things that are stopping you from progression in any kind of way. It's not serving you well. Serve yourself for once and say, I am worth being helped. I'm worth putting work into, right? If your car breaks down, you go put value into it. You pay to get it fixed. Well, you're way more worth that car. Frick that car. I don't care what kind of car you got. I don't care. You got the Bugatti, baby. Throw that thing in the trash compared to you. You're more valuable than it. So put the work into yourself and start to understand that you deserve to have that. So I just wanted to really make sure that this thing with guilt is not affecting you in the same way. Hopefully after this, you can start to feel that you deserve to have a better life, because you do. You deserve to have a better life. Not this kind of life where you don't feel good and you're struggling and you're going through hell every day, and that you just have to be this survivor who lives in the Badlands and is trying to make it out of it every day. Like, every day shouldn't feel like a jungle. It should just be like, I'm going to take consistency. I'm going to take the work. I'm going to do it all. And sometimes you just have to sit with your feelings, and it's very uncomfortable. But my biggest advice to you is identify your feelings. Identify them. And start to really allow yourself to feel your feelings. And if you're running from your feelings, how long are you going to run? Are you a track star? I didn't know you're a track star. You should be in the Olympics. Because you can't outrun them. They're still there. So if you run now, you can still come back in 15 years and you might still have the same feelings. They never left. They're like your shadow. So running from your feelings isn't an answer either. It's just temporary. And we're doing too much Band-Aids on, a bleeding heart and it's an exploding dam. You don't put a Band-Aid on it. You don't tape it up. That maybe for a couple seconds, maybe a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe. But it's not going to do anything for you. Running from those feelings isn't going to change your life. It's not. How long will you run, and how long will you allow yourself to continue to feel hurt as if you deserve it? You don't. Guilt isn't for you. Guilt is not an identity. You can feel guilty, and there's certain healthy ways to feel your feelings, but they're not going to serve you very long, right? So Katrina says, I have suffered from anxiety my whole life. It is hard to be happy in any way when you worry and you are scared all the time. I 100% understand that. I was that. I was that. I was that person who was scared of everything to come the next day. I didn't want the next day to happen because I was too scared. I was too afraid. And I didn't believe that anything good was going to come. But it will. And I had my view, right? We talked about the airplane and being on the ground. My view of what I saw in that time was only brokenness. Until finally I walked through that whole place and came to the other side. And now I have a different perspective. Right? So that's why it's so different. It's so different because my heart was broken and all I saw was broken and all I projected was broken and everything about my life was just, this is how life's going to be for the rest of time. There's no reason in living. This is the future. This is all I know and see. And forevermore, I will be in pain just year to year, day to day, whatever it is. I never believed there was a future. And I told you guys yesterday, my heart breaks for everyone who has felt what I have felt before. And I know I'm not the only one. I've seen it too much in our chats. I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. I know you guys struggle with stuff. This is why we have these discussions, because they need to be out there. I know I'm not the only one that has felt guilty before. I know I'm not the only one that has stopped or has felt survivor's guilt. I know I'm not the only one that has chased away my feelings or brushed them off or buried them deep down or worked them out or ate my feelings or didn't eat my feelings, slept my feelings off, smoked my feelings, drank my feelings, whatever you want to call it. I've tried that. And it's always back to square one after whatever high you get off of it. It will not go away. And it will not change no matter how long you're willing to run that marathon. It's going to follow you. So sometimes you just have to be willing to eventually stop and deal with it. And I know it's going to be freaking hard, trust me. But you'll change your own life. I changed my own life because I was willing to do it. Kelsey just texted me and frick his side profile squirrel girl. Frick dis. I'm going to answer a real question. Vanilla Bean says, Colby, how did you overcome anxiety? That's a great question. You know what I started to do when I feel anxiety? I'll be honest with you. My anxiety was horrendous. Let me give you a little depth on it just so you understand. Then I can give you the answer on how I managed it, because it did take a little time. My anxiety was so bad that I was even thinking about, what if my family is cursed to this level and I'm going to lose everything, but I'm going to stay. That's how scared I was. Like, that was my anxiety level because everything was already gone. So I was like projecting what had happened in my life to everybody around me. And I meant everybody I'd ever cared and loved. I thought I might lose everybody and then I would somehow survive it and I'd be stuck, right? So my anxiety was like even to that point of like the fear of I could never rest, period. And I used to sweat like that hyperhidrosis where your armpits are sweaty or your hands are sweaty. Like I was sweating all day. I'd realized that have you ever just taken a deep breath or like lay down and felt that you had been like, even when I'd lay down, I was like this, and I would realize eventually I could let the tension go because my body was so tight. The way I've dealt with it is, number one, I've physically worked out, and I do this all the time. Like maybe 6 days a week, I go and I exercise, because that's the physical side for me. While I'm exercising, I will start to think about, I can't even take you seriously, Kelsey. You've come so far from side profile squirrel girl with my gosh dang worst pick ever. And Miss Woozy is down here saying fart is not allowed. I don't even know what to say to you guys. But while I'm at the gym, I found a way to safely deal with my feelings in that way. While I'm working out and feeling my most present, physically and mentally, I will start to allow my thoughts to be free. And what happens is, while I'm exercising, I allow the anxiety thought to come. And because in that state of exercise, my mind is able to take the thought and rationalize and compartmentalize. So I've learned how to pull the drawers out and put where things belong where they belong. And because what anxiety is, it's being overwhelmed, right? So if I feel overwhelmed by my life or anything like that, and I'm taking it all on, right? How am I going to make it through the day? How about I stop that and I go back to, let me just put my shoes on. Let me put my socks on. Let me put my clothes on. Let me brush my teeth. Let me do my hair, whatever you got to do. Start with a practical way that you're going to do something. And there's such a momentum that people don't understand, is your momentum of you doing the something that was productive, that helped you organize your thoughts, will start to change the way you think. So now I've done multiple practical things. I've gotten dressed. I've had breakfast. I took all the pills I need to take. I got ready for the gym. Now I dropped my daughter off. Now I get to go to the gym. And while I'm at the gym, I'm allowing my feelings to come up. I'm allowing it to happen. What's up, Brandon? What you have to do is you have to slow yourself down, and it's almost impossible. It is. I get that. Anxiety doesn't have an off button. But what happens is you're starting to take the broken glass and throw it in front of you with anxiety, and you're worried you're going to step on a piece of glass because of what happened today, what's happening now, what's happening yesterday. And this goes through a lot of people, and I see this a lot. And, people who are going through divorces, or people who are going through, family hardship or work hardship, and your whole life feels like it's spinning out of control. What you do to recenter yourself is find out, what can I do? What do I have control over? And really, the truth is, you have control over really just the simple things. Hello?
I have to get Car's monitor.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I got to get Car's monitor. Nobody freaking clipped me standing up with my pants on. Freaking side profile squirrel girl.
That's what you called me.
My gosh. Side profile squirrel girl out here talking crap to me. But yeah, that's how I do it. And that's how I have done it. I've had really scary thoughts. I've had intrusive thoughts. I've struggled with it all. I've struggled with the daily, right? Like eating, sleeping, all of it, right? And I've had a hard time. And my first thought always was like, I just want to escape. I want to get out of this mentally. And that's what I had done my whole life, right? I always knew how to escape mentally. I could sit here and zone out. It's a skill that I've developed. I'm sure others have too. When you can't physically escape, you're going to mentally escape. So I would just zoom out. Like I could just start to think about things, and I could be my own world, perfectly happy. And, that's just how I look at it. And you can't do too much in life. Like you really can't prepare for everything. It's great to be a planner. My mom, my parents never taught me how to prepare for jack sh, man. I didn't know how to set a schedule. I didn't know how to set my alarm and get up, make sure my alarm's a certain amount of time before. So that way I actually have time to get ready. So it's not just like wake up and have to roll and rush. Like properly learning how to do my life, I've learned what works for me. I have to have extra time to be prepared for things because I do have anxiety. So if I have to do something in the morning, like wake up and do it, I have to wake up way, way, way before so that way I can actually make it to that thing. Because if I wake up, my anxiety will immediately take me over. If I'm late, now I'm brushing my teeth as fast as I can. I'm trying to, I'm just gonna be super blunt here, like trying to go to the bathroom as fast as I can, so that way I don't have to go on the way. Like stupid stuff like that will get my heart rate and my anxiety rolling about everything that's going on. So that's really how I look at it: is what can I control and what can I do to prepare better next time. And when I'm prepared, there's something that allows the future me to relax in. I prepared. I got my clothes out. I got my underwear. I got everything ready. I put it right here. And when I wake up, I can just get up. And first thing I'm going to do is get dressed, then go brush my teeth, then eat. That's simple. But it will start to reduce your anxiety, because now you realize you have more control than what you believe you have. Now, I know not everything is going to go perfectly like that, but you can't always control everything. And I think that's where, for me personally, I have to trust in God's plan. I really don't have that control. And that guilt that I had was that same feeling of I lost all control of everything. There was nothing in my control. Nothing was in my hands. But yet I took all the blame of it. I believed that everything I did was my fault, that I should have changed it and I should have saved it. And I couldn't do it. I didn't know what they were planning. I didn't know what they were going to do. So how could I have done anything about it? It's very unfortunate. Obviously, you go back and you play this game called the what if game. And I hope if you do this, please understand I love you, but this is the worst game you could play with yourself. The what if game is, well, what if I would have done this? What if that's the guilt. That's the shame. That's the stuff that's building up, that's not getting you anywhere. Maybe at the beginning, yes, it's, okay, let me process this. Well, what if I did this? Yeah, get the thought out. But repetitively, what if I did this? That is just, you're making up a scenario in your head. You're making up a story in your head, and you can't answer your question. So you're torturing yourself. Well, what if? Yeah, what if I could have done all these other things and I could have saved everybody? I would have done it, right? 100%. I would have saved my entire family. What if I could have done it? I would have done it. That wouldn't have been an option. It wouldn't have been a thought. It would have been, and I said the same thing. I wish it was me on that block and not them. I would have done anything to jump in place where I would have jumped in front for Tylee and JJ so they could live. I would have put my life on the line for them. That's just what it is. But I can't do that, right? There is no exchange. There's nothing I can do. So what if is actually a torturing yourself. And a what if is also anxiety for the future. Well, what if this happens? What if I fail? What if I do this? That's anxiety at its core, at its finest, right there. Last thing I'll tell you, and this is just honest truth, social media and too much information, and yes, I am talking about too much information, will make your anxiety worse. It will. It will just put too much on your brain. You literally have neurons firing to receive and go through information. If you're receiving information all day, how do you compartmentalize all the things you've heard? How are you going to do that? I don't know anybody who can with the amount of information you have available at your fingertips. So if you constantly reeling through a new piece of information and basically just numb and going down the cyclical point where, of course, you're going to feel anxiety. Of course, you're going to feel scared because you're going to hear about situations going on in the world, and then you start going, you start going down this path and you're reading about everything that's ever happened bad around the world. And, this goes for all my true crime people. I love you. And I listen to stuff too, because I'm very interested in the psychology and situations and how we can learn from it. But if I listen to true crime all day, it's going to make me think and project true crime in my real life. It's really hard to separate that. So if you do that kind of stuff, you are possibly affecting yourself. And I'm just being 100 with you, right? If you're listening to, and then they walked in and the head was hanging from the ceiling, that's going to scare you. And mentally, you're probably looking around differently because we have an alert system. We have a survival system. and your survival system in your brain is going to do what it needs to do to make you survive. And so we have this thing in our world, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I hope this is helpful for you guys. We have this through reality TV and stuff, we have this ability to touch scenarios without ever having to do it virtually. We watch people go through stuff, we see the stuff, and we don't have to feel the pains or the worries or the doubts or anything that happens in this realm, right? And that has become the new normal, but your system still reacts to it. There can be an adrenaline dump or pump off of all of that. And the more you fill in your brain, the more you do, that's causing that kind of cyclical issue, right? Your brain still reacts to those scenarios, but it's not actually firing all the way because it knows you're not actually in a threat, but you have things like fight or flight, you have all that kind of stuff. And if your brain is constantly dealing with those scary feelings of what you're watching and consuming, it's kind of like food. Whatever you are, what you consume. So if you consume a lot of stuff that's giving you anxiety, well, yeah, it's going to contribute to it. So you got to start really thinking about how you sleep, how you eat, what is contributing to this, and just kind of start going through a process and that's what I mean by take care of yourself. You're worth that. Maybe you're drinking a little too much caffeine. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep. Maybe you're not drinking enough water. I know it sounds simple, but it actually is those kind of process of what you deserve to have. And then you start to go through a process of elimination. And that will start to help you in your anxiety. I truly believe that because it happened for me. And I had crippling anxiety. And I've had anxiety my whole life. I've had anxiety from like 2 years old. Like crippling anxiety. Like can't go to school, can't function. I'll never be able to do anything. Like failure, blah, blah, blah. I told you guys. It was horrible. So my bubby's waking up. He's waking up. What up, boy? He looked at the camera. Oh, he got scared. It's okay, Bubby. It's just daddy. I gotta go get my boy. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I scared Carter a little bit. I don't think he knew that was gonna happen. We're gonna get into more topics like this. I promise. We'll be doing a conversation about shame. It's very important to tackle, and it's really important for us to start talking about these subjects. Yeah, I did make him cry. I thought I was gonna be nice to him, but whatever. I appreciate you guys, man, and love you, and I'll see you on